Hi, and welcome to another Tech Talk session brought to you guys by Macrosoft. Thanks to everybody for joining the session. Got a really exciting topic here today, converting classic ASP applications to ASP.NET. Been getting a lot of questions about this, so we wanted to turn it into a Tech Talk. I'm Joe Rafanelli. I am Director of Technical Solutions here at Microsoft. And if you're not sure by now, what we do is we do customized software development that we specialize in migrating old to new platforms. Um, we are the leading provider of professional technical services for VFP, ASP, and VB6. So we migrate them all. As usual, you guys have seen Imran before. He's my go-to guy for my technology. He's very familiar face in these tech talks. VP of migrations by Migration Service. He's been with us many, many years, done a great job for us. Once again, Imran, I want to welcome you.
Thank you, Joe. Hello,
Sure.
everyone. You know me, and Joe already introduced me. As for the classic ASP aspect, I have spent some very good years in writing classic ASP applications during 1997 to 2000. ASP was the first framework for me that I used to start developing the browser-based applications.
Yeah, we definitely know that you have the expertise there. What I'm going to do is, like I normally do, I have my questions, and Imran will answer them, obviously. And then we'll do the chat questions at the end, and then we'll wrap it up. All right, so let's just get started with the basics. Imran, what is classic ASP?
Classic ASP, or ASP in short, it's a abbreviation of Active Server Pages. Is a server-side scripting language developed by Microsoft in 1996. ASP was widely used for building dynamic web pages, especially in the era of 1990s and the early 2000s until Microsoft introduced .NET. So developers, there were two choices for developers: either use VB script or write the JavaScript. But mainly the people were using VB script, but because of most of the developers coming from the Microsoft platform working on the VB6, so they were more familiar with the Visual Basic thing. So they were using the VB script to develop their ASP application. It's the way it works. Basically, the file extension is .asp, and it's an HTML page in which the ASP script, there's the VB script, is embedded. So, but now what happened is, as the .NET come and Microsoft stopped the support of ASP for in 2002, so the people stopped developing application in classic ASP and moved to .NET. Uh, the applications that were built with ASP, that includes the basic web application, some shopping carts also built with it, and the e-commerce websites as well. But it was used widely in that era.
That's a great start, right? Thanks for the history on that. So, if the classic ASP is still working, like why migrate it?
That's a good question. Still, we come across a lot of applications. Still, they are in classic ASP and they are working just fine, right?
Yeah.
People have no issues because they are serving their purpose. Especially the business applications are working just fine. But why to migrate a classic ASP application? There are a number of reasons basically. The first and the most one is the Microsoft stopped their support, which means there is no new security patch or any updates available for classic ASP applications. Any vulnerability, any threat coming to developer have to, treat from the code level. There is no support from Microsoft for that. Other than that, uh, it become the legacy platform, so no new resources are available in market, and the people who know classic ASP, they are decreasing day by day, and so right now it is required. Another thing is .NET took over. .NET is much more efficient, faster, and secure than classic ASP. So now it's the time basically to migrate from classic ASP to .NET.
No, understood. Yeah. As far as new developers coming in for ASP, that resonates. We hear that a lot from our folks. So appreciate you saying that. Okay, does this mean the new applications have better UIs than classic ASP?
Yes, of course.
Mm,
Much better UI, I would say, because in the era of classic ASP, there was HTML4 pages with HTML controls, and the classic ASP code was embedded. There were third-party controls available, uh, but majorly people use the free ones. Of course, with that come with the framework and the HTML4. But now, when we develop applications using the modern UI platforms, frameworks like Angular or React, the new applications get more dynamic UI. Major difference is there is less round trips to the server. In classic ASP, a user click the submit button, it goes to the server, get back with the data and the page refreshed. But in the newer one, it's a single page application with React and Angular. You don't feel that it's a server round trip. It's just the section which requires an effect gets changed only. So that's one thing. So it's more robust, more fast, more real time data is coming to the pages with it. And other than that, because the separation of concerns as a technical word we use for the architecture, it's very clean code. And with the clean code, the UI is also got a lot better because you're focusing on the UI separately. It's not dependent of the server side logic what it is coming. Uh, another feature that is required now is the responsive design, and it is the modern applications are providing that responsive design, Angular and the Bootstrap frameworks, as built in. Another thing is the mobile are very popular, so the applications we are developing with the modern platform using Angular, they are supporting the mobile as well. And the security, of course, I mean, the .NET and the Angular, they are dealing with the modern threats and they are much more secure than the classic ASP applications.
yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Looks like there's some serious reasons why to migrate off. So yeah, that was clear. So if a business decides to migrate, what's the best platform to move, from ASP?
Joe, when we talk about migrating a classic ASP application, so we have a wide range of choices, but usually it depends on the clients or the company's tech ecosystem that what suits them best, what platform the other applications are developed with, and what resources they have. Usually, what happened since Classic ASP is the product of Microsoft, so they find and the people prefer to go and stick with the Microsoft platform. Let me show you what choices we have. So let me share my screen. Um I believe you can see my screen, right?
We do see it. Thank
Okay,
you.
so this I put together options. So this slide is showing the options available, which has the Microsoft tech stack somewhere. Let me go one by one. ASP.NET Web Forms. It is also not new now. So when the people started migrating to .NET, they started using the ASP.NET Web Forms, which was using the .NET framework plus the web forms as the UI. Um, some many classic ASP applications were migrated to that platform, but since it's not new, so it's not advisable to go with it, but it's completely Microsoft thing. Then it comes the ASP.NET MVC. MVC is Model View Controller, the more advanced thing or more modern thing you can say, and it also deals with the separation of concerns. So there are different layers in the application. So this is one option as well. A lot of people are still using MVC or migrating their applications using the ASP.NET MVC. Now here comes the much more modern, which is .NET Core plus is which is ASP.NET Core. You can say also. Then Web API, then modern UI frameworks, Angular, React, or Vue. These not come with Microsoft, but Microsoft gave us .NET or .NET Core, same thing these days, and the .NET Web API. So the .NET Core provides the complete backend support for the business rule and all those things, and then Web API provides the open API. and through it we can connect any UI framework to this backend. And this is our recommended tech stack for this one as well. It comes with a lot of pros. Basically, all the applications which are being developed these days are just following this framework. And in the today's tech talk, we'll discuss in more detail about this tech talk. Another one is the Blazor plus .NET Core. Blazor is again from uh, Microsoft. It's not that popular as Angular or React is. Uh, it is relatively new. Not much resources are available for Blazor. Not much uh, controls are available as they are available for the Angular. So this is another choice for the people who want to stick with the Microsoft platform. So this is all about the tech stack which has the Microsoft on it. But Microsoft is not only the world, so there are other choices as well. So now what I'm showing here is the non-Microsoft technology, which includes mean or MERN. I mean, and it's abbreviation of MongoDB, Express, Angular, Node.js. You see no Microsoft here. So this is one of the tech stack that the people who are developing the browser-based application are using as well. Then we have Ruby on Rails as well. So this is also platform not very much popular, but still, I mean, people are doing it. Then there is PHP plus Laravel, or you say LAMP stack. LAMP is abbreviation of Linux, Apache, MySQL, and PHP. So usually people using, if they are not going with Microsoft, they usually go with the MERN or LAMP stack. So these are the choices that are available. And as I mentioned to you that this is our preferred choice of the tech stack, Microsoft has, we developed a framework which we call Dazzle, and Dazzle completely based on this tech stack. Uh, this is Dazzle framework, and you can find more details about Dazzle on our website as well, and we'll provide you the URL of it. The Dazzle is distributed layers. The first layer is presentation, where the HTML5 is there, JavaScript, and the CSS, and Angular. So we prefer to develop applications using Angular. React also other choice, but our main choice is the Angular. Then we use the Bootstrap and the TypeScript. This is complete UI. Then we have the service layer, which is basically API which connects the backend business layer to the UI layer. And the beauty of this thing is the whole application can be connected to Angular or React or any other UI platform. And then the business layer, it is the hard code C Sharp, .NET code, where all the business rules and workflows and the business logic resides. In the data layer, it is used to connect to the database, and we use a lightweight ORM name as Dapper. It's very efficient, and we are using it. And the bottom is database SQL Server, and all the layers are basically binded, and they follow a role-based security to make the application more secure. And there are some helper utilities across these layers, which includes the logs and some other useful components that make the application stable, fast, and maintainable. And this whole architecture is very robust. Microsoft has developed a number of applications working in very critical environment, and this exactly follow the main choice that I mentioned about what are the this is the choice, basically the Microsoft choice, and many of the people basically choose this tech stack for migrating their classic ASP applications.
Yeah, that was really good. Thank you for that. You made that a lot easier once you put it on slides and talk it through. So I appreciate you putting that together. You mentioned a few times the Angular route, which is the most popular. So why don't we just tell folks what the advantages are? That the combination of the offer.
Sure. .NET with Angular offer several advantages. Angular is from Google, basically. It's also a very stable framework. It comes with all the updates and security features. So that's why we say that .NET with Angular is has very a lot of advantage that it comes with. So .NET provides a secure and uh, scalable backend environment, and for the secure and the solid backend environment, it requires a very solid UI as well that can support the cross-platform development and to implement the modern security standards, and of course the high performance. Angular comes with very high performance and it completely gels with the .NET at the back. Angular also delivers smooth user experience by allowing you to build highly responsive and the single page applications that I discussed is the modern way of developing the applications,
Mhm.
and the separation of the front end and the back end also makes the system very easy to maintain, extend, and improve the overtime, because this modern era, every day the technology is getting advanced, and we keep coming with the new modern tools. So we choose the platform or the framework that can easily accept the changes and the new controls that are coming. Um, and we found that it's a powerful combination for the businesses looking for the very modern and solid browser-based applications.
Yeah, I can definitely see why we would recommend that. You mentioned the speed, which obviously clients are always looking for, and it's great that we're able to optimize and make it as fast as clients would expect. So appreciate you going into that. So a little technical here, but what are the core differences between classic ASP and .NET applications that developers should know before starting their migration?
Okay. The key difference lies in how both platforms handle server-side execution and the separation of concerns. Classic ASP mixes front-end and the back-end code together in a single page, and the file is called .asp, and this and, and that can lead to, you can say, spaghetti code and make maintenance very difficult, because UI and the server-side code, everything is in one a.asp file. On the other hand, ASP.NET, which is a subset of .NET Framework, enforces separation of concerns, meaning the front end, which is Angular or React, and back end ASP.NET are separate. So you are working on UI separately and you are keeping your backend code separate. And you can both unit test both the layers separately, and that will provide you a solid base. This leads to a cleaner and more maintainable code when we keep them separate. Um, and additionally, ASP.NET uses modern development practices like dependency injections that were not available in the classic ASP. Uh, Middleware and modular components are also available that were not available in classic ASP. The question that you basically asked, how to prepare for migration? What is the plan? So I put together a migration mapping diagram that will clearly tell that how to migrate and what components from classic ASP will be migrated to what in a Dazzle framework. So the UI, okay, so the classic ASP consists of .asp files. As I mentioned, that everything in the ASP. It contains the HTML code, it contains the client-side JavaScript, and it contains the server-side script, which is the VB script or the JavaScript. So from there, the from the .asp UI and the layout, which is the HTML code and the style sheet and the JavaScript, it will go to the Angular components and templates. Angular works with its components. So this will go to the UI layer, which is the Angular. So UI and layout will go to the Angular components. In classic ASP, there's form handling. So when you there's a form with controls like input and some buttons. When you hit the submit button, it submits the form, and that's how the classic ASP send the request to the server, and the round trip will start, and the trip to the server starts. Here, Angular forms are this code will go to the Angular forms and the API endpoints. So this is the API layer which provides the endpoints, and the Angular will call the API. So this form handling will be moved to the Angular forms plus the API endpoints. Classic ASP manage its sessions in the memory basically, so that it helps classic ASP to remember who is the user, what's the user ID, if something is in the shopping cart, what it is. So it's all those things are in the memory. But when we are migrating, we will have to keep every session separate from other user session, and that is we use the JWT based token and authentication or the session management in web API. So there are a couple of choices. The most popular choices are JWT based token and the management in the web API. Um, and the business logic, which is the main, you can say, server side code that performs all the main functions in the program or implement the business rules. These are the server side VB script code, which is written within the uh, classic ASP tags. It will go to the ASP.NET Web API controllers and services. And this goes to this layer, which is the C#.NET layer. And data access, where the classic ASP communicates with the database. As I mentioned, everything is in the .asp. So, but here in the day, the classic ASP use that ADO object to communicate with the database and the SQL queries. So this will go to the ORM, and Dapper is the very lightweight ORM that we are using, and people can use the entity framework also here. So all these data access and SQL queries will go to this data communication layer in which we are using Dapper. So this is the whole plan basically, or mapping, that what component from the classic ASP will go to which layer in the Dazzle.
Yeah, that definitely made it clear. I appreciate you putting that together. It's definitely a significant shift in development practices, but definitely the right way forward. Now, people always ask us this question: are there tools to do this? Right? Can we easily migrate classic ASP applications to .NET Angular with some sort of tool?
Um, yes, there are some tools that helps automate parts of the migration,
Hmm.
not the complete migration, only parts of the migration. For example, ASP.NET Migration Assistant is one of the tool uh, uh, that is exists, but it also does not do the complete migration. It just parts of that. Then there are some other companies created and provided their migration tools, but they some of them are just migrating some of the backend logic. No migration tool is providing you the complete shift, as I mentioned in my previous slide, from the classic ASP to this modern platform in the Angular or the .NET code. Every tool is basically doing this. So, in fact, there is no magical button that can fully convert a classic ASP application to .NET and Angular. But at Microsoft, we are, in the migration business, and we do a lot of migrations. So we have our own tools. And in this era of artificial intelligence, at Microsoft, we use AI-powered tool called Code Auto. You can see the Code Auto URL here. You guys can go there and read more about Code Auto. So our development teams are using Code Auto as their basic tool, and we migrate any application using this tool, and it helps us a lot in migrating the code and converting to either C#.NET or the Angular components. So it helps us a lot, and it makes the migrations very fast and very secure as well.
I remember we did a whole session on Code, so I know that's a very powerful tool. Appreciate you mentioning that. So, yeah, there's tools, but not for the whole thing. So, and like you said, no easy button. That's why folks would typically, maybe hire a vendor such as us to help them out in that situation. So let's talk about the approaches, right? Can you outline a step-by-step approach for migrating a web application from Classic ASP to .NET with Angular?
Sure, let me share my screen. I put together a migration process that we follow and we advise. Like any other project, we just cannot start migrating. We need to understand, as I earlier showed you, the mapping. But everything starts with the assessment and planning. We need to see how the classic ASP code is written, how many components are used. There are some included files as well, how the CSS is written. Are there any third-party controls? Uh, is there any integration there? So all these things require very detailed assessment. And in the result, with the results of assessment, you need to plan that, okay, first thing, what is the target platform that we are going to migrate this application to? What controls we need, what is the integration requirement, what is the performance requirement, and all those things comes to the planning. Then, if you are migrating to .NET, we need to set up the environment. We need to create all the layers, as we mentioned, because it requires the data access layer, the business layer, where you can find all the models, then the API and the UI. So all those layers are required to be well defined. If database is required to be migrated, we need to take care of that as well. Usually, people coming from the Microsoft platform like Classic ASP, they were using the SQL Server, so it's easy. Basically, we don't need to migrate the database as such. But if it is coming from any other platform like Oracle, then it requires database migration as well. Uh, Everything starts with the front end and the back end. We prefer to analyze this application or any application based on back end logic, that what logic is going to the back end. And the front end is basically if the project is to migrate like to like, it's similar easy job. Basically, you have those screens in classic ASP, and you can rebuild those screens using the HTML5 and Angular components. So this is relatively easy job than the backend, because we need to locate the backend code and migrate it and make the classes and make the API endpoints based on that. So all these things then will become the regular development process. Testing in QA is very important because uh, most of the time, I would say 90% of the time, there are no written, uh, no documentation is available about the application. So the testing is very important. Write the test cases, compare the two applications working, and do the comparison testing. Once all those things are done, then the deployment and monitoring, um, make the UAT servers or the production servers available for the application, deploy them during the development so that is there any roadblock, the development team can work on it and fix it before the times come. And once it's done, deploy and UAT get the approval from the users, deploy in the production side, and just start supporting the production.
Yeah, great explanation there. I know this is a proven model because we've used this in the past. Um, so we gave the folks a big bowl of good news, but let us know, the challenges, of that approach.
I have put together some challenges as well. Yes, it's
Mm,
not as simple
yeah,
as I
I
told
figured.
everyone that, as I mentioned, there is no magical button and no, but the processes are there that are proven. But still, the first challenge that the development teams would face is the UI enhancements. Right, the client don't want, they want like to like, but they want modern as well. They like more good user experience with the modern Angular or the modern platforms. Right? So what user experience you can get is the first challenge. And the UI UX team basically provides the UI and explains that how it's gonna work. It will be little change or it's a major change, but they provide how the user experience will be. Separation of logic, that's another challenging thing, because in ASP, as I mentioned earlier, that the UI code is there, the JavaScript is there, and the VB script is all there. You need to eliminate that and decide what logic go in which layer. So if there is really business logic written, it will of course go in the business logic layer with the C Sharp .NET. But when it comes to the forms validation or the controls validation, it is also written sometimes as like the server side code that can be moved to TypeScript. So to identify which logic is going where, this is another challenge. Uh, Sometimes business is very complex. Business rules are defined in the application. Sometimes there are multiple screens. There's a wizard kind of thing, and you are keeping all those informations intact while taking input from the client or doing multiple processes. This thing, and so identifying this thing is another thing. And usually the classic ASP applications were not good at this. So it requires very careful consideration of those things. Data migration is also the thing. If it requires to change in some data model, so then it has to be done very carefully. We don't advise to make major changes to the data model or the database, otherwise the migration project will become a difficult thing and testing will become a lot more difficult. So these are the main challenges that I would like to discuss.
Yeah, I'm glad you disclosed that because there's always, when there's good, there's always challenges or the bad, if you will. So folks should know that could happen, and we've gotten around these challenges in the past, and we know the pitfalls. So thank you for that, Imran. Okay, so I had my questions, and we're going to open it up to the audience here. Okay, so we got our first question. How does the handling of session state differ between Classic ASP and ASP.NET Core, and what stages exist for managing session state during the conversion?
The question is about the session state,
Right.
how to handle the session state. Okay. Classic ASP used to use this, keep the sessions in memory session objects, and that's how it was managing the state, which is limited and uh, cause the scalability issues. But in the modern ASP.NET Core, the session state is handled differently, and it can be handled in multiple ways. Like an option is in-memory caching. You can keep those sessions in memory, and we can have the distributed caching by using the Redis kind services, and we can keep the sessions in the database as well, like this SQL Server based session storage. This allows in the .NET the better scalability and flexibility, especially in the cloud or the distributed environment. When migrating, it's essential to choose the right strategy based on the application. It again comes back to the planning session, that how the sessions will be maintained. So there are, as I mentioned, a couple of choices. So we need to choose our right way of managing the session state.
Yeah, it sounds like there's stuff that people need to know before they attempt to do this migration. Okay. Let's see if okay. Next question: will the security be enhanced with migration? With the migration?
ASP.NET comes with built-in security features that are far better than the classic ASP. During the migration, we can leverage features like OAuth, OpenID Connect, and HTTPS enforcement. Apart from that, uh, we can use any modern single sign-on options as well, like Okta. To ensure security is maintained or enhanced, it's important to review authentication methods, encrypt sensitive data, and enforce proper input validation. Migrating to ASP.NET offers a great opportunity to enhance the security for the entire application. So yes, it's a lot better security than the classic ASP application.
I'm sure folks would like to hear that. Okay. Next question: are there compatibility issues with integrated converted ASP.NET Core components with existing classic ASP elements during a phased migration?
Yes, compatibility can be issued. You'll need to manage things like session state, cookie handling, and data formats carefully to allow classic ASP and the ASP.NET Core components work together. If it requires to integrate with the classic ASP other applications. In some cases, using API or middleware to bridge communication between the legacy and modern system, uh, it's necessary to assess what it is, and if there is a challenging integration, then we need to take care of that. But everything requires careful planning. I mean, we need to know beforehand what components we are using, what integration is required, and then write the code according to that. So the careful planning and the testing are critical to ensure smooth integration.
Yeah, if you don't plan, you plan to fail, right, Imran? Okay, next question here. They're coming in pretty quickly. How should developers approach the conversion of complex business logic and customs COM components used in a classic ASP application to ASP.NET Core?
Very good question. For it usually comes when the business logic is very complex and written in different modules. So for the complex business logics, you'll need to refactor it first thing to align with modern design pattern in .NET. This may involve breaking down the logic to services and modules that are easier to maintain. And as for the COM components, ASP.NET Core doesn't directly support COM, so they need to be rewritten and replaced with .NET native libraries or APIs. This can be a significant part of the migration depending on the application.
Thank you. Okay, next question. How long can this migration process take? So I'll take this question. All right, I'm going to say the word depends, right? So it depends on the complexity of the application, right? So how much components are in there. For smaller applications, it could take anywhere from 3 to 6 months is our typical process we've seen. Larger applications, anywhere between 12 and 18 months. To understand the size, we have a tool, a code matrix tool that actually can go ahead and count the number of screens, lines of code, and everything that plays a role in determining the timeline. So it would really, I'll say the word again, depends. So planning is the key, like we've been saying throughout the whole thing. A phased approach is the way to go to help strategize, and it helps manage the process, more efficiently. So sorry, couldn't get any more specific on that answer, but like I said, it just depends on how big the application is. Okay. Any other questions here? Okay. I think we're good. Imran, thanks so much for your expertise. That all came out in this meeting. So you really dove into the details there. So thank you. Audience questions were great. Thank you guys. You really thought that stuff through. Very challenging questions, by the way. So if anybody got questions that you didn't get answered, or you have comments, if you want to speak to us, you see my contact information there. We'd love to help you out on your next ASP, migration or any migration of that, effect. I want to thank everybody once again, and until next time, have a great evening or a great morning. Take care, folks.
Thank you,
Bye-bye now.
everyone.
All right.